Ladies and gentlemen,
are we, you guys hear me okay? Make sure. Everybody can hear me? Wow, it sounds pretty good. Nice sound system. Excellent. All right. I'm here to show you the GH4 and what the GH4 can do. Now, are you all familiar with Micro Four Thirds and the format a little bit? I've been shooting Micro Four Thirds for a while now, and it's come a really, really long way. And now, since I've gotten the opportunity to shoot the GH4, it looks just like the GH3, but it shoots 4K video. What 4K is, it's video that's 4 times sharper than 1080. You can pull a still from the video in the camera, save it as a JPEG, and it's an 8 megapixel JPEG right from the video. So essentially, if you shoot 30 frames a second in 4K of a lightning storm and pick one still, you don't miss anything. I mean, I'm not a big video guy. This is like, the video guys are out of their minds about this camera. And I started using it and then pulling stills while I was on the train today, and it's just amazing. It's just a lot of fun to use. And basically, in my photography, what I do is most of my stuff I shoot while I'm traveling, and I post to everywhere. The camera's Wi-Fi, so I can take it and I can Wi-Fi from the camera to my phone or my iPad, and I can send out the pictures to Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, wherever. The cool thing is also the app that works for the iPhone gives you the opportunity to control the camera from your phone. So your phone actually sees what the lens sees, which is pretty amazing. So you can make camera changes on your phone while your camera's sitting on a tripod and then take photographs. So it's like a, it's like a spy camera. It's pretty cool. But so my work basically consists of target shooting. No, this is a thing that I found online about how you should crop people. What you should do and what you shouldn't do. So I threw it up here first just so you get an idea, so when we go out later to take pictures of Chelsea, you have an idea of things that you don't. The red gives you the idea of not cutting off the toes and ankles to make people look, I'd say, out of proportion. So if you want to copy that down, take a shot of it, do whatever. It's a great guide. I use it all the time. I have somebody that takes beautiful portraits and she cuts the toes off all the time. So you got this shot and it's just enough to make you crazy. You look at it and you're like, why didn't you just leave that much in, that much? So keep that in mind when you're concentrating on photographing a portrait. And anytime you crop at a joint, it's really not, just not attractive. It looks very strange. It almost looks like, the person is an amputee, which is, it's not the way you want it to portray. Well, hello, Raina. Okay, let's move on to the next one. All right, so everything I do mostly in camera. Right? This shot right here, I took that on the way to the train station. New Jersey Transit bus is coming. That is a filter that's in this camera. That's called the impressive art mode. And you can pull the color out of it and make a black and white, or you can enhance the color. So that's straight up out of the camera. I shot it square, and the only thing I did was throw a frame on it on Instagram. It's all about having fun for me, and where I go and what I do. I have a great time. I travel all over the place. Nissan right now is following me and has my truck on Pinterest because it's got 273,000 miles on it, and it still runs great. So they're following me around the country wherever I go. I drive everywhere I go, which is great. I get a chance to take the camera and do whatever I want with it, wherever I want. Makes it a heck of a lot more fun than sitting on a plane. I do a lot of photographing of bikers. This guy right here, he won't be with us today. I have a much more calm, quiet model. This guy was about 6'8", 300 pounds. His name was Big Daddy. His hand, you can't appreciate how big his hand is in comparison to like the normal person's hand. I mean, I asked him to make a fist and put it out, and it was like, it's enormous. It made twice my hand. So it was an interesting shot. Again, black and white in the camera. Everything I do is in the camera, and I just threw that up and posted it all over the place again. Wi-Fi. Throw it in my camera, to my phone, and then up and go. It's another feature on the camera. Same thing. This is the impressive art mode with the color enhanced. So it looks like an HDR picture. It's shot in camera. It's a simple way to do it. It just pumps everything up. Now all the stuff that I'm showing you works great for scenery shots and things like that. When you're using it for people, it's horrible. You don't use that kind of a mode on people. It throws out skin tones. It does all kinds of really crazy stuff to people. So it works great for scenery and stuff like that. And you can do it both ways. The good thing about it is, by playing around with all this, if you shoot a JPEG and a RAW file, this is your JPEG, but your RAW file is always your RAW file. So none of this is in your RAW file. So you still have a normal picture of the same thing. So you have something you can play with and you can post on Facebook or Instagram, but you still have your raw image that you can work with and do whatever you want in post. The camera actually does process its RAW files in the camera, so you can actually shoot RAW, process it in the GH4, and save it to a JPEG in camera, so it keeps the original RAW file and it saves a JPEG. So for those of you, the myth is that you can't get shallow depth of field with a Micro Four Thirds. Well, I focused on just the one little piece of barbed wire and threw the background out, and that was at, I believe, 5.6. So that gave me a nice soft background, and still I was able to get a nice sharp piece of barbed wire and throw the background out just enough. If I wanted to throw it out even more, right now the Panasonic has come out with a 42.5 millimeter 1.2 Leica Nakatron lens. It's a 1.2 aperture. It's equivalent to an 85 1.2. It's a beautiful lens. They're just shipping them now. I don't have one yet. It's on its way. I've used the prototype, and it's fantastic. I mean, the background, if you have someone and you photograph someone's nose is in focus and their eyes are completely blurry, it's that shallow of a depth of field. So it's not like you're sacrificing anything. Now, I know you all figure that, you know, I push the Panasonic products because they're paying me to do so. Well, if you look in my history back, you'll look back before I became a Panasonic luminary. I was shooting with the GH2, and I did a whole series of Bike Week and different things for Harley Davidson, for Cycle World magazine, for all of it. And I went down there with big DSLR gear and the GH2, and I wound up using the GH2 because I was shooting in low light at slow shutter speeds. With a big full frame camera with a big mirror, it became a real issue shooting at a 15th of a second trying to bounce that mirror, because I mean, I'm walking around biker bars, not really someplace where I'm going to walk in with a tripod and set things up. You just walk around and try and grab what you can. I wound up shooting with the GH2, and I got really amazing images, and I thought, wow, this is pretty cool. So I started shooting with it a little more and more, and the focus wasn't great, the noise wasn't great, it was good enough. But as the GH3 came out, the GH3 started looking really good. The focus was so much better. Everything seemed to be much, much better in the GH3. The GH3 was also weather sealed. The lenses they got serious. They went and they made a 12 to 35 2.8. Then they made a 35 to 100 2.8, which essentially is a 24 to 70 2.8, and a 35 to 100 is a 70 to 200. So now, for those of you who shoot a big DSLR with a 24 to 70, this is a 24 to 70 2.8. So carrying around lighter gear for me is awesome. I can carry so much more. This is a 70 to 200 2.8. Small, weather sealed, image stabilization. And it's just, I mean, for me, I mean, I ride a motorcycle too, so I can throw it on the back of the motorcycle and carry a bunch of gear rather than just pick and choose one body and a couple of different things. So I did shoot with this stuff long before I became under contract with them. But when they finally came out with the GH4, which I got 2 days ago, I played with a prototype for a while on and off, how to keep giving it back. It was a lot of fun. The prototype, you know, the firmware kept getting updated every other day, and they kept sending me this and sending me that. It was kind of making me crazy. I finally got my own. When I got my own, the firmware is solid. It's not giving me any issues. It's sharp as a tack. I was doing some 4K video and pulling stills off it in the train on the way here. It's just remarkable. I haven't had the conductor standing there looking at me going, wow, this camera's really cool. What is this thing? You know? So it's just a lot of fun to be able to capture different things. Another shot of just an old truck out in the desert somewhere, black and white out of the camera. And then every time, I don't know you guys, I mean, I post stuff to Facebook, Pinterest, Tumblr, Twitter, you name it, it's everywhere. So when I travel, people are looking for whatever I throw up there. So when I shoot something like this, I shoot this, and then I shoot a raw file, and then I have both, and I can just put this up on the web, and everybody's all googly on how, hey, how did you do that? Oh my God, that's the most amazing picture I've ever seen in my life. Not really, it's just something cool that you can pop up on Facebook. But it is a filter in the camera, and it gives you the opportunity to do some cool stuff. Same here, it was all black and white stuff, old school. The black and white, you can adjust the curves in the camera for highlights and shadows so that you can create a really nice tone in the black and whites, which is kind of nice, because then it gives you an idea how good the black and white's going to look if you decide you're going to convert it, you're going to use post to do something with it. A lot of times when you shoot something, you shoot it in color and you say, well, I'm just going to make it black and white in post rather than shoot it in black and white. And then when you do change it to black and white, it just looks terrible. And you just, you know, it's kind of useless. This way you have a sample of what you're in. And quite honestly, when I do shoot in black and white, since the camera's live view, so you've got an LVF, so your viewfinder here is live, is the same as your LCD. So when I shoot in black and white, unlike shooting a DSLR, I'm actually seeing it in black and white when I photograph it. Not so much, you know, trying to look through the viewfinder with glass, you're seeing the other. Now this shot's really interesting. I don't know, anybody know Frederick Van Johnson? He does a show every week called TWIP. So we were out one night and we're all standing around waiting for a train, and I had this guy. This is the GM1. This is a Micro Four Thirds. It has the same processor in it as the GX7. Little tiny thing. Uses all the same lens, same processor as the bigger cameras. I took this picture with this camera and this lens at ISO 2500, and the light that's on Frederick's face is an iPhone, the flashlight from an iPhone. We used that to light him up. So when David was saying that, I love to make shots out of things that just don't exist. I mean, he laughed at me. He says, yeah, good luck shooting a black guy under moonlight. You know, and I said, hey, we're going to make this happen. So when we took the shot, we got it, and he's like, come on. Right away, he gets it, and he puts it on his Facebook page as his profile picture, and we're all laughing, you know. So then everybody's saying, hey, you got to do that for me. So I wound up doing like 5 or 6 shots of everybody walking with their iPhone, because the background's the sky. The sky was just completely black. So we were just playing around, and we were just having fun. And bottom line is, if you have a camera, no matter what brand it is, I mean, although everybody in here should sell your cameras and buy Panasonic. just saying, you know. But no matter what kind of camera you have, you should try to learn the camera the best you can. Do the best you possibly can in the camera, get the best picture, and then do whatever you're going to do in post. Don't take a mediocre shot and say, I'll just fix it. Know how to fix it. These cameras are so fine-tuned that you can make adjustments within 1/3 of a stop. So you can get something really, really good and then make it even better if you want to go into post. But you don't have to spend your life doing it. And the next photo, if I hit the button the right way, this is the same night in the same area. Same camera. I did the same thing here, except I used aperture priority. I was at 1.7 on the wide open lens. It's a 20mm 1.7 lens. I opened it up with exposure comp, dropped the shutter speed down to a 1/15 of a second because I wanted the light behind him going through his hair, making something exciting. We're standing outside a bar, and he said he needed to have a cigarette. Now, he's a Canadian. I can't help that. You know, it's whatever he has to do. So I positioned myself and him so the light would come through his hair. I got the smoke coming off the cigarette, and I was able to make that shot with absolutely nothing. No flash, nothing else, just opening up the camera a little bit, dropping the shutter speed, and having a higher ISO. So being able to create a shot, have fun with it, no matter what you use, it's just a lot of fun. Know your camera. These cameras, the mirrorless cameras, give you the opportunity of not having that mirror bouncing back and forth. So when I'm doing low light stuff, I don't have a big kerplunk every time I hit the button. There's no mirror, so it's a very smooth. So slow shutter speeds, I can get a tack sharp picture. And that makes me very, very happy because I love having fun. I love shooting everything I possibly can with my camera. It's a blast. Again, some crappy old Volkswagen in the streets of Arizona. I cranked that thing up and got the crazy detail and all the stickers and all the other stuff that's on it, the peeling paint in the front and everything else. In the city, just walking along. These are right out of the camera. None of this stuff is done in post. It's all in camera. So this one's just a regular shot. I just waited for the steam coming off the from the pretzels there, and just shoot in camera. So I'm not putting any post there. Now this is interesting. There's a little story behind this. This got me in a little bit of trouble. You notice Hell's Angels on here, right? Hell's Angels. Nobody photographs Hell's Angels. They don't have a policy where they don't want anybody to photograph them. Well, I thought, since I photograph bikers, why not try and photograph Hell's Angels? Now, you need to figure this out ahead of time. You don't want to be the guy in the bushes shooting through a palm tree trying to get a shot of Hell's Angels, because somebody's going to see you and you're going to wind up not having a good day. So this is Sonny Barger. If anybody knows, Sonny Barger has been a Hell's Angel. He originated. 57 years he's been a Hell's Angel. Well, I made arrangements to go. I think this picture is probably, Sonny Barger's never photographed, period. He's never photographed with someone. So I made arrangements ahead of time to try and work something out to go to Cave Creek, Arizona on my way to Vegas, because I heard that this is Cave Creek, this is where their clubhouse is. So I thought in my wildest dreams, this is never going to happen. So I sent them a Facebook message. Badass bikers have Facebook pages. Yeah, go figure, okay? So I sent them a Facebook private message and said, look, this is who I am, this is what I do, I photograph a lot of bikers. I'd really like to be able to come to Cave Creek and photograph Sonny Barger. And I thought, yeah, this is never going to happen. So I get a Facebook message back the next day. Yeah, so what exactly do you want to do with these pictures? I said, absolutely nothing. I don't plan on posting them anywhere. I use them, I do a lot of different lectures, and I like to talk about, you know, these little adventures that I have all around the country. So they said, all right, you're on. So I was like, really? Okay. So I drove to Cave Creek, and I got there and went to this bar called the Buffalo Chip. And and it's a Hell's Angels bar. So I walked in with my New Jersey license plates on my truck, which went over real well. They asked me, you know, the guy who owned the bar said to me, so, you know, who are you and why are you here? I said, I'm here to photograph Sonny Barger. And the guy just laughed. He goes, yeah, right, okay, good luck on that. And I said, well, no, seriously. I said, I made arrangements to do that. He's like, oh, really? He said, well, good luck. He said, those guys are all out back. So I said, all right, fine. So I walked out back, and there's a group of Hell's Angels sitting there. And these guys are relatively, I mean, if you look up Hell's Angels is not exactly your, you know, neighborhood-friendly group. So I walk back there, and as I walk back, two guys get up, and they just start walking toward me. So I've got my camera in my hand. I'm thinking to myself, yeah, I needed more than a camera. I needed like a baseball bat or a machine gun, because these two guys looked like I would have been annoyed if I had shot them, you know, with a weapon, not just a gun. So as they walked toward me, they got within 5 feet of me, and the guy sticks his hand out. He says, "Welcome, we've been waiting for you." So evidently they did their homework. So they knew exactly who I was, what I looked like from looking me up online. So then they're nicest people ever. "Hey, come on, they're, you know, Sonny's waiting, he's excited." I'm like, "Really? Are you kidding me?" Like, Hunter S. Thompson and Danny Lyons, who are big motorcycle photographers, are the only ones that were ever anywhere near Sonny Barger. So sure enough, he says, "Well, let me call him. I'll see where he is, how far out he is." I'm like, "Really? This sounds way too good to be true." So sure enough, you know, they call him, they call his wife, and he said, "Oh yeah, we're about 20 minutes away." He shows up, and they're all like, "Yeah, let's do it. Let's take some shots." So I took this picture of him just messing around, but then after I took this picture, he said to me, he said, "Well, you didn't just drive 2,700 miles not to have something to remember this day by." And I'm thinking to myself, okay, now is when they're going to beat me. Now you got your picture. Now it's, you're going to remember this day forever. You know. And he turns around and he grabs me and he says, "Come on," and he says, "Give the camera to one of the guys." So I tossed the camera over to one of the guys, and the guy says, "You know, what do I do with this?" I said, "Just make it good. Point and shoot. Make it good. Point and shoot. It's all set. Just take a lot of pictures and make sure you don't cut any heads off." So sure enough, he did. You know, he shot it, and it was awesome. So and the guy who owned the bar is just like, "Who are you? How did you pull this off?" I was like, "Hey, I don't know, but I'm going to leave now and go to Vegas and do my other stuff." Well, I posted the picture on Facebook of myself and Sonny Barger on Facebook, Tumblr, Twitter, you name it, everywhere. Within, I don't know, 2 hours, I got these frantic emails from Panasonic. "Call me, call me, call me." The Oakland Sheriff's Department, along with other law enforcement agencies, wanted to know my affiliation with Hell's Angels because no one is allowed that close to him, and there's got to be some sort of an affiliation. And why do you have a Hell's Angel as a Panasonic luminary? And I'm like, really, it's not like really a part-time job. It's not like I'm going to be a Hell's Angel and a luminary, you know? It's kind of, you know, it was pretty funny. So I actually contacted them and told them that I was not in fact either a part-time luminary or a part-time Hell's Angel. That I assured them that I wasn't, you know, agreeing with, you know, the way that these guys ride and live. But it was a great time. It was a great story. And again, my camera gets me into all kinds of things. And showing these guys pictures, these guys love this stuff. They're just like, "Wow, this is so cool. What kind of camera is that?" And you got guys that are like this big, you know, the camera looks like a little toy in their hand, but they're all into this stuff. So they love having pictures. So originally they're like, no, you know, no photographs of anybody else. Then they saw the picture of Sonny and they're like, "Hey, could you do me?" You know? And it's like, next thing I know, I've got a photo session going with all the guys from Hell's Angels on their bikes, and "Hey, I just had this chrome thing done over here. How do you think?" You know? So it's kind of cool. So it's just a fun thing to do. So I have a really, really great time. It's much better than having a real job. I get to go places and do cool stuff. So anytime I say to Panasonic, you know, I'm going to do something out west, right away they go, "You're going to drive, right?" Because they want to see what I'm going to come up with when I start driving cross country. This shot, the next adventure. I'm driving along, and there's a town called Chloride, Arizona. It's just outside of Vegas on Route 93. It's got a population of 300 people. It's an old mining town. It just looks like someplace you definitely don't want to be. I mean, I was very apprehensive. I drove in, and it was one of those things like, you know, where you got the people peeking out from behind the curtains, looking at you out the window going, "Uh-oh, stranger," you know. So I hung out there for a while until one of these little one little restaurant that was there, not one of many, one of one. And it opened up, and I figured if I went in, maybe I'd get lucky and have some of the locals show up, and I might be able to get some cool portraits. So I set my camera up ahead of time. I knew that I was going to be shooting anything that was low light, was going to be indoors in this little place. I set it all up. I used a Leica 25mm 1.4 lens, and I raised my ISO up pretty high to probably 800 or 1000. I opened the camera all the way to 1.4, figuring that if I'm inside, these guys aren't going to be sitting there and letting me go, "Well, hang on, let me just do another one. One more. They want to just, you know, you want to talk to them, you want to, if you're going to try to convince them you know what you're doing, you better know what you're doing. Because it's like, you take the picture and you show it to them, they're like, oh my God, you know, that's really cool. So this guy, I walked in, I sat down, I was the only one in there. The waitress looks at me right away, it's like, you know, where are you from? You know? So I started telling her I was, you know, from the New York area, and I was there to do some photography. I want to test out this new camera. I had the GH4 with me, it was a prototype. And as we were talking, people started to walk in. This guy walks in, sits down, and he's a salty old guy, you know. He sits down and he just kind of looks at me like, what do you want? And I said, oh, I said, I'm really interested in the town. I said, you guys got to have some good stories. Look at this place, you know. It was really an interesting place. Very impoverished, you know, really small, beat up homes that were just basically shacks with, you know, smokestacks coming out. So I sat down and he started, you know, telling me stories, and I said, would you mind if I made a photograph? And he was sitting right, that's exactly what he was doing. He didn't do a thing. He said, what do you want me to do? I said, nothing. Don't do a thing. Just stay right where you are. And I just took 2 shots, and that was it, just like that. And then another guy came in, and the other guy shows up, and this is the way the guy comes strolling in. He's like, hey, who are you? I mean, there's 300 people in the town. I'm definitely odd man out. So he starts telling me all these different stories. So I had this great conversation, showed them pictures. Again, the guy said, well, can you email that to me? Go figure. This place, I mean, when I tell you this town was really, I mean, you would not have believed that they had any kind of internet. No way. I mean, no way. I mean, I was surprised. I mean, some of the places didn't even look like they had power, never mind internet. You know, and the same thing, and the girl said to me, she said, oh yeah, we were on Facebook all the time, the little restaurant, you know, and it was like 10 chairs, but the restaurant was great because it was breakfast, lunch, dinner, and a stage for entertainment, because it was it. It was the town's entertainment completely. And the guy who was tending bar was the DJ at night, and you know, the whole thing just went around in circles. Another just shot along the road. I pick these people and just talk to them, and I find them to be incredibly interesting. The guy wouldn't let me take a picture of his pickup truck. He said, it's not finished yet. It was a 55 Chevy pickup truck, and it had some, you know, paint sanded off and everything. He was working on it, and he said, you can take my picture next to the truck. He said, but that's as good as it gets. He said, I don't mind. Then he starts telling me the whole story about the truck, how he's working on it, and he's got this. So it was really cool. So I got a chance to do the same thing, take a picture of him, got another story, and just keep having fun as I travel along. The best one. It's my birthday. I pull into this rickety old gas station, and a friend of mine calls me on the phone to wish me happy birthday. So I am in the middle of absolutely nowhere. There's nothing anywhere around me, and I'm talking on the phone, and my friend is talking to me, and I glance off to my right, and I see this horse. There's no one around. This horse is just standing here looking at me like, hello, you know, I'm lost or whatever, you know, and I'm like, come on, what is this, you know? So I tell my friend, it was John Bentham, I tell my friend John, I'm like, John, this is the town I'm in. If you never hear from me again, you'll know where I am. Come look for me. Because I see a horse, and he's like, it is your birthday. Have you been like at a bar or anything? I'm like, no, really, seriously. I see a horse, and there's nobody around. So I get out of my truck, grab my camera, I go walking over, and then this guy shows up. Now, Jeremiah Brinkley is his name. If you write it down and you look him up, he is a real-life American cowboy drifter. He is traveling around the country with Anna Marie, the horse, on foot. He had just come back from the California coast where they went swimming on the beach. Go figure. I mean, this guy walks. I mean, he says, I'm from, this was the funny part. I said, so where, I'm looking around like, how did you get here? And he's like, well, I'm from Missouri. Missouri. It was like a Clint Eastwood movie. I was looking around for cameras. I really was. And finally, you know, I realized this guy was legit. And he starts telling me about where he's been and what he does. And he said, oh, I've been out for about a year. Anna Marie's 9. She has about 30,000 miles on her. We've walked all over the place. I owned her mom, and I retired her. And when her mom got pregnant, she had the Anna Marie, and then he went off with her. So it was this, you know, you can't make this stuff up. I mean, I'm thinking to myself, this guy he's a cowboy. He's a drifter. He walks around and travels around all over the country with his horse. So then he says to me, you know, if you look me up online. I'm like, what? You look me up online? He goes, no, he goes, my son made me one of those Facebook pages. He said, I don't post it. I don't post anything on it. He said, but my son will do every now and then, because wherever I go, people find him and they'll do an article on him. So when they do an article on him, they put it on the internet. So then it winds up, his son finds it and posts it on his Facebook page. So sure enough, I grab my smartphone, I dial it up, and I look, and sure enough, Jeremiah, Brinkley, and Anna Marie pop up somewhere in Joplin, Missouri. And it was just amazing. You know, so all this stuff just pops up. And I'm posting this along the way, and I'm telling these little stories on Facebook, and people are like, where are you? You know, what are you doing? Are you making this stuff up? I'm like, no, seriously. It's like, it's really happening. It's the weirdest trip I've ever been on, you know, for all these different things. And then I pull into a rest area, and I see this truck, and I'm like, it's a pretty cool looking truck. Maybe I'll do something weird with the camera and see what happens. So I grab a shot of the truck. I used a 7 to 14 millimeter lens. Pretty cool wide angle lens, small. I used that, and I used that impressive art mode and cranked up the colors so that red truck really looked good. I posted this picture on 10 Ford Trucker Magazine's Facebook page. I got 1,600 likes in like 2 hours. My phone was just cycling with the notifications. I'm like, are you kidding me? So then I get a note from 10 Ford Magazine, private message. This picture's awesome. What are you doing? Why are you taking pictures of trucks? And I was just like, well, you know, it looked cool. I figured I'd take a shot and send it, you know, put it out there. So again, now I wind up with all these exposure, and then they're sharing it all over the place, and it's stuff everywhere. Thank me for all this stuff and all this press, and Panasonic's loving every minute of it. You know, they're like, wow, I don't know how you managed to pull this off, but keep doing it. You know, this is an example of, that's Baz Luhrmann, the Great Gatsby director. That was shot on a Lumix G1, long before. It was the first, G1 was the first mirrorless micro four thirds camera with the electronic viewfinder. And luckily he was sitting still, but this was, I did this, yeah, because the viewfinder on that was kind of like really drifty, but it is so good now. But so this was shot way back when, so I'm not just pushing the cameras because I think they're, you know, they're great because they're paying me to do so. But I actually do like them, and I don't use my DSLRs anymore. I've shot all my commercial work. I just did all week long. I've been shooting commercial stuff with the GH4 since I got it. If I wasn't using that, I was using the GH3. I've shot covers for many, many magazines using the GH3, and I'm thrilled with it. I mean, I love it. I have no problem with quality. No one has any problem with quality. Getty Images accepts everything from the Micro Four Thirds. They love it. This is another shot. This is one of the first ones I did of one of the trucks. This got me in to do a documentary of female truckers. So I've met with them twice in Tennessee. American Photo is interested in doing, they're interested in publishing the documentary. Again, I sent this, I found the name of the company, and I said, hey, I was in the rest area, took a picture of your truck, testing out a new lens and some other stuff. What do you think? You know, enjoy. Well, next thing you know, private message, boom, 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 you know, hey, what are you doing? This is a really cool picture. And they approached me. We're a bunch of lady truckers. Would you like to do, you know, we'd like to get some pictures of our trucks and something else. They have all these really cool trucks. So I had another job, and I said, well, let me just take a ride. I'm going to go through Tennessee anyway. Let me see if I can meet up with one. So I met up with one of the women at a steel mill in some hokey little town called Chuckey, Tennessee, where I actually slept in my truck on the side of the road because they didn't have any accommodations. So I stayed there. So I was able to get, you know, shots like this, and again, posting stuff from the road. I'm still on the road, I'm still shooting, and I'm getting all this feedback, and I just have a good time. This is another shot, same thing, from a farm that I was walking around with, and just shot this, posted again on 10-4 magazine. It's an old vintage auto car with a cool filter. It made everything look really interesting. And that is my truck with 273,000 miles, which is featured on Pinterest. That's with that crazy impressive art mode. When I took a picture of the truck, it looked pretty cool with the wide angle lens. That was an 8mm fisheye. It looked pretty good. But then I thought, nah, well, let me see what happens with the impressive art mode. When I did that, it made the truck look transparent. So it looks like you're actually kind of looking through, it looks like the scenery is on the other side of the truck. It's really weird. So when I posted the picture, Nissan follows me anyway, but when I posted the picture to Nissan, they sent me back a note and saying, we want to feature that because it's just a crazy looking photo. What did you do? How can you see it? So if you see, the horizon line is here, and it's here. It goes right across the truck. So it looks like it's running through the truck, and it just happens to be the way the reflection was red. Absolutely. Nothing I do is ever an accident. Same thing here. I find little places. A superior public water system in a town of 587 people. That's probably the only thing they have in that town that's superior, is the water system. Because that town was, I mean, talk about, it was like a living ghost town. This is one of the other guys from Chloride. He was a former law enforcement officer. We blew this picture up. These are all shot. The images that I took were shot square. So I can shoot in a square mode, but it's a 12 megapixel square because it's the center of the sensor. We blew this up to 24 inches square, which is probably pretty close to what it is here. I sent the JPEG right off the card to the lab. The lab put it in and printed it as is and made a 24-inch square print for the opening of the Lumix Lounge that we did in New Jersey. And it is so sharp. It's just amazing. It's so impressive that it's a 12 megapixel square shot, and yet it's tack sharp. Again, these are all just available light, low light, just handheld, really low shutter speed, and I can just get cool images without having a big, you know, scary camera. People are a little more, when I walk in with my 70-200 on a full-size DSLR, people look at you like, uh-oh, what's this guy gonna do? When I walk in with this stuff, they're like, yeah, whatever, you know, it's easy enough to do. That is a still off the 4K video that I shot this morning on my way here. Same thing, just pulled a still off inside the camera, saved it to a JPEG. And I'm pretty impressed about how sharp it is. And the train was moving. You know, it was a video. That's 30 frames a second in the video. This guy. This is shot wide open again. Blackjack Nugent. If you look up Blackjack Nugent, again, he's got his own story, The Life and Times of Blackjack Nugent. I find these guys, I have no idea who they are. I find out that they're interesting. I take their picture, and then I look them up, and it turns out that they actually are somebody that has like a story written about them and stuff. This guy's very cool. He's a biker. He's a tattoo artist. He was an absolute maniac, drug addict, crazy man who got himself into a situation so bad that he had a stroke, and he lost use of his right leg and his right arm. He fought himself, fought back to get himself to walk again, but his right arm he couldn't tattoo with anymore, and he was a very well-known tattoo artist. He taught himself how to tattoo with his left hand. So now he actually is successful, and he tattoos with his left hand. Really interesting guy, nice guy, looks like a complete madman, absolutely, But same here, it's another guy, same thing. It's a, an interesting way to look at it. This guy is Tattoo Tony Rodriguez. If you look him up, you're friends with him, right? Yeah. Is a guy that I met, again, no idea who he was, saw a biker rally going on my way to Atlantic City. Thought, hey, I'll stop, why not? Guy looks cool. See if I can get some pictures of him. So I show up, and again, they got guys standing at the gate looking at me like, who are you and why are you here? Well, luckily I had a bunch of guys that I knew that were on the inside, and they started yelling toward me, hey, what's going on? What are you doing down here? So right away these guys were like, oh, okay, he must be all right. These guys know him. So I started talking to this guy who was running the thing. And I said, I don't know the guy from Adams, so I don't know who he is or what he does. So I said, I'd really like to get a couple of shots of you because you're so interesting. I said, I'm picturing, a black and white shot with the tattoos and something. And he's like, yeah, all right, fine. What do you got in mind? I said, I don't know, man. He said, well, I just put a paint job on my bike. Maybe we can get some shots of my bike and I'll sit on it. So he goes over, and I take a picture of him with two of his bookends, the two guys that were with him that were like giant. Took a picture of those three guys, and then I said to him, well, I'd really like to get a picture of you on your own. And again, he said, what do you want me to do? And he was leaning on his bike. And I said, nothing. And I just clicked 2 shots, and I came up with this one, which I absolutely love. And this shot wound up being, Tattoo Tony, winds up being security for Bret Michaels from Poison. He travels with Leonard Skinner as their tattoo artist. He's super well known throughout all over the place. Again, I took these pictures, I Wi-Fi'd them, posted them online, and I drive to Atlantic City. When I get to Atlantic City, I get there, and Panasonic said to me, who is Tattoo Tony? And I'm like, I don't know, what do you mean? They're like, there's 1,400 likes on this picture. Like, who is this guy? And I'm like, I don't know, who is this guy? I didn't even look him up. So then they started looking him up and found out that he's got all these connections all over the place. But it turns out that he's one of the nicest guys. So I did an event with him. I said, hey, I hear you're doing a tattooing event for autistic kids. And he said, oh yeah, man, come on down, you can photograph it. And I said, all right, that'd be great, I'll give it a try. So I came down, 6 hours. He raised $10,000 for autistic kids with he and his biker friends. Handed her a check at the end of the day. 6 hours, $10,000. And it was just like, okay, I made $10,000 with my buddies tattooed Jack Nugent, Blackjack. He was one of the tattoo artists, a couple of other guys. So people were flocking there to get their pictures and their tattoo done by Tattoo Tony because he's a famous tattoo artist. I didn't know that. But he raised all this money, and he just handed them a check for everything he made that day. And he's done all these different things. This is a foundation called Under My Skin for Life, and it's a nonprofit foundation where he does all kinds of charity work and raises all kinds of money for kids, for Sandy victims. He raised $500,000 for Sandy victims, and then gave out $50,000 checks to the families that he interviewed that he thought that needed them. Didn't take a dime. He said, all the other agencies steal the money from whoever they're going to give it out to. I'm not going to be one of those guys, so I want to be able to do, all this stuff. But so this gives you an idea of, not judging somebody, first of all. But the guy does great stuff. But these cameras, again, the GX7, another small one. That's why I shot this. I shot that on a GH3. The other one of Chris and Blackjack Nugent I shot on here. That was at the other event. But it gives me the opportunity to shoot in lower light inside and just be a little less obtrusive. I can walk around with a couple of cameras. Nobody really notices what I'm doing. I tell them who I am and what I'm doing, and I get great results. I just have a lot of fun doing what I'm doing. So I'm going to open it up. Anybody has any questions, and then we're going to run outside.
Whether you're a hobbyist or a professional, B&H has the answers to your questions. Experience a world of technology at our New York City Superstore. Connect with us online or give us a call. Our staff of experts is happy to help.